Hello, everyone. I've got some very interesting topics for you today that I've been working on. But today I'm going to be talking about Elon Musk and is he going to have a presidential role going forward? The 2024 elections. I'm going to be looking at Truth Social and the Peace Broadcast System. Ron DeSantis and where he is at the moment and where he might be headed in the future. The We the People movement. I'm going to be looking at Hollywood and Oprah Winfrey, the UK government, China and BRICS. And I'm going to be looking at the National Security Agency, the NSA, and social media platforms like Facebook. And finally, I'm going to be looking at the BRICS and the quantum virtual vault and a meeting that I clairvoyantly saw happening in the Arctic last week. So there's quite a lot to get through today. So I hope that you're really going to enjoy it. So the first issue or the first point that I've been looking at is around a post that Donald Trump made on the Truth Social platform. And on this announcement, he said that I believe that Truth Social is the greatest and hottest form, system, and platform of communication in America, and indeed the world today. And that's why I use it, and there is nothing that comes even close. So when I looked at that initially, I looked at the words hottest form, and I saw hot test. And so it got me thinking about what this message might mean. So I wanted to channel it. So I asked my team, is this a coded message in this statement, and what is the coded message? And so what they said to me is that this is a statement implying that Truth Social is being tested to run worldwide for the Truth Social worldwide movement. And I said, what is it being tested for? And they said that this platform runs on a system which is digital and analog and can run even when the normal digital networks fail. And I said to them, so do you mean it has military parameters of communication ability? And they said, yes, it does. So then I said to them, what is the reason for Truth Social having military backup in its processing capabilities? And they said that Truth Social is the preferred platform, logo, parameters, system, and form that the military currently want to be able to run a worldwide broadcast if need be. I don't know what all those words mean, like logo, parameters, system, and form. So if anybody knows what they might mean, please message me below. So I said, but Truth Social is only known in the USA, or is only in the USA. And they said it is only known as Truth Social in the USA, but the capabilities of Truth Social are mirrored worldwide in other military communications programs. And they reminded me of the M.A.R.S project, which is the communications platform for the military, which I mentioned probably about a year ago now on one of the Nick Armin interviews, where I talked about Elon Musk always mentioning M.A.R.S. And I asked, when he talks about Mars, does he mean the planet Mars, or does he mean the Military Auxiliary Radio System, which is M.A.R.S, M.A.R.S. So in this context, they're saying that the Truth Social platform has capabilities which are mirrored worldwide and they are mirrored in other military communication programs like the M.A.R.S program, which is this one, the Military Auxiliary Radio System. So then I said, will the Truth Social setup be used for some sort of worldwide broadcast? And they said, yes. And I said, is this the broadcast of disclosure? And they said, no. And I said, what is the broadcast intended to do? And they said to me that the Truth Social broadcast is intended to calm people in the event of any panic or unrest when the systems switch over. And I said, what systems? And they said, when all current systems get switched over to the quantum system. And I said, do you mean, for the banking? And they said, partly, but it's more concerned with when the systems switch to the quantum worldwide system for the military. And I said, haven't they already been set up for the switch? And they said, yes. And I said, so what aspects have already been set up? And they said that the infrastructure has already been set up, the regulations, the operations, and the procedures. So I said, so what is still outstanding? And they said, the switch to the public. And I said, what aspects will be switched to the public? And they said, banking, communications, internet, which is Web 5, Web 7, and voting in 2026 and 2027. So I said to them, so the Truth Social app and the platform, it's a military platform and app. And they said, yes. And I said, so is it set up differently, to other social media apps or platforms? And they said, very much so. They said it has a Web 5.7 cybersecurity and layers of protection worldwide. And they said it is programmed in analog. And in some areas, it also runs on an analog system. So I said, what is an analog system? And they said that an analog system is where if there's a power outage or there's some sort of outside interference, like to the system running generally, then they can still run it manually. And I said, so are you saying that the Truth Social platform can do this? And they said, yes. So then I said, so when Trump said that this is a hot test form, was he sending the order to do a live test? And they said, yes. And I said, what was the test exactly? And they said, to check its capability and to stand by. And I said, what was the standby referring to? And they said, the standby was referring to each location like north, south, east, and west. And they're saying that each location is primed and ready. It's primed and ready now to release a broadcast if such a need arises. They said the systems are tested and they are ready for the public. And I said, did the public directly or indirectly observe or witness this testing, this hot test? And they said no, because it was at military levels of clearance only. And then I said, is Elon Musk involved in this Truth Social broadcast system? And they said not directly, but they said the Starlinks are they said the satellites of Starlink are part of the Truth Social military broadcast system. So then I said, so are we saying that the Truth Social is a military broadcasting system? And they said, yes. And I said, so why are we creating a social media app for military broadcasts? And they said, it's not for military broadcasts. It's just military infrastructure, which will support Delta in the Space Operations Command. So a few weeks ago, I did a video called Worldwide Military Peace Plan. And in there, I talked extensively about the cyber operations at Space Operations Command, which are called Delta. And what they're now saying to me is that Truth Social is part of their broadcasting system in the event that they need to put out communications to the public. And I then wanted to just reiterate again, so what is the Truth Social movement? And they said to me that the definition of the Truth Social movement is that it's a group of people who are advocates for a new devolved and decentralized system of voting and governance with freedom of speech. It's a movement and an infrastructure overseen by the military space force. So the next subject I looked at was Elon Musk and whether he was going to take a presidential type role in the future. Now, I have looked at this before. I have looked at whether he's going to run for president before, and they said no. So, but I am getting a feeling he is going to be running for some significant role in the future. And I don't know if in the new setup, that might be what it's going to be. So I wanted to have a little look. So I said, will Elon Musk run for a presidential type role in 2024? And they said, no, he will not run for this type of post in 2024, the 2024 election. But he will be a prominent figure going forward into the new setup. And I said, the new military setup. And they said, yes, the new military setup. And I said, what will be his role in this new military setup? And how is the new setup going to look for its members who are not military personnel? So obviously, when we've talked about this before, we know that the Delta Space Force is putting together some infrastructure so that we can run the new devolved setup. We, the people, can then vote for the things that we want going forward. I wanted to know the players within that setup that aren't military, how will that look for them? How would that operate? And so if Musk was to run for that type of role, how would that look? And they said to me that people in the future will be voting for policy and not for people, and that Musk will be a designated overseer of the system, which runs cyber operations, possibly worldwide currency operations, social media, and banking. And I said, well, that sounds like a big role. And they said Musk will have a large, prominent role in the new setup. And I said, is this going to be a white hat setup? And they said, yes. And I said, is it going to be a military setup? And they said, from the security aspects of it, like the cybersecurity, yes, it will be a military setup. But they said, essentially, the new system will be driven by we, the people. And I said, so is this new setup due in 2024? And they said, no. I said, is it due in 26, 27? And they said, it is anticipated that it will begin in 26, 27. And I said, so will Musk have a title like president or something similar? And they said, Musk will have a unique role going forward, not president, or not president of the USA, but he will be elected for his policies by the people. And I said, will this be in a public role or will it be part of his X.com? And they said, it will be both. So I said, can you explain that? And they said that Musk and Dorsey will be prominent leaders for free speech and the development of tech that allows for autonomy and for management by we the people. And so I asked them, so will their roles be around X.com or associated with social media platforms like, say, YouTube or Facebook, for example? And they said, yes, they will be the face of a changing landscape in social media. And I said, so what about Google and Microsoft? And they said those platforms will be restructured and all policies will be overhauled. And they said this will happen quite shortly after the social media networks and platforms merge and are cleaned up. And I said, the social networks are going to merge. The social media networks are going to merge. And they said, yes, it is intended that YouTube, Facebook, and maybe Twitch and some others are all going to merge under the Truth Social movement. And I said, so will this mean that they're going under the X.com structure? So they said, in some cases, yes, but in other cases, they will be cleaned up and restructured in line with the freedom of speech narratives in the Truth Social movement, which will also go under the Truth Social app. They said that the Truth Social movement is a project overseen by the military. And I said, what other roles, apps, or businesses will Elon Musk be overseeing or working with in the future? And they said to me that Musk will be working closely with President Trump in the future to create the freedom city. Then I wanted to look around Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis recently removed himself from the presidential run. And I wanted to look at, what's going on with him both now and in the future. And they said to me, I said to them, will DeSantis come back around in some form to lead America? And they said that in the new setup, DeSantis will be a prominent mentor to the people. And they said he'll be a peacemaker. For the new setup. They said he's going to be an ambassador for peace, but there will be many. And I said, so is it possible that the new setup could, begin in earnest before, say, 2026, 27? And they said it is. And I said, is it possible that it could happen in 24? And they said in current estimations, it is anticipated that the new Truth Social movement and the new devolved political setup will be available in 2026, 2027. And I said, what is this timeline currently dependent upon? And they said it's dependent upon the infrastructure within Space Force, their cybersecurity. And it's all part of the worldwide military peace plan, which I talked about in my previous videos. So I wanted to just clarify, Ron DeSantis, why did he remove himself from the presidential run for 2024? And they said to me that Ron DeSantis, like Trump, is a sting operation. And he's being used, and he was being used as a sting operation to pull out any bad players and any allegiances to the dark plan. And he is being trained and being made available now for the new military setup, which is Space Force. And as we've just said, that's due to go public in the public eye in 2026 to 2027. So then I said, so when you say military setup, aren't we effectively under military law like worldwide right now? I asked them. And they said yes, that most countries are currently operating under military law to allow for a smooth continuity of government. And I said, so are we saying that continuity of government is where no one political party has an established authority or mandate over a country? And they said yes. So I said, so really, in actuality, it's continuity of governance, not government. And they said exactly. And I said, so how did this come about? They said most countries have had election interference, and most leaders have been placed in the past through election fraud or tampering. And they said leaders in positions now are working under military supervision under military law, whilst the new cyber system, Delta, is being put into place. And I said, so running up to 2024, how will it look on the ground? Will more people suddenly like pull back or pull out like Ron DeSantis has now left the race? And they said, and I said, would it, for instance, will Robert Kennedy Jr. pull out? And they said he will. And I said, will there be others? And they said there will be others, like, for instance, Gabby Tolsard. She might stop running or being involved because she's part of the military setup. And in fact, I said, is that because she's going to be part of the new military setup and the strategy? And they said yes. So then I said, so are we saying that all prominent candidates could drop out? And they said yes, particularly if they are linked to anything to do with this new military setup, which we're planning on seeing in 2026-27. So I said, is this to leave the race? Is this to leave Trump in the race? And they said no. They said Trump is not supposed to be president going forward because the new setup is now ahead. They said, however, Trump will be given the role in retrospect. And I said, so will election fraud finally give him his rightful title of president in retrospect? And they said, not exactly. They said the election fraud does not affect Trump's role as commander-in-chief now or in the future. They said his role was to oversee this transition to the new military setup by creating a diversion. Then I wanted to look all around the 2024 election and whether Trump would be on the ballot and whether it would go ahead. And I was given what looks like a couple of scenarios. So I don't think they have an absolute plan yet as to how they want to play it. But one of the questions I asked, first of all, was, will Trump get taken off the ballot for 2024? And they said actually that he wouldn't get taken off the ballot. So that was scenario A. And I said to them, so will the election of 24 go ahead? And scenario A is that the election will go ahead so that it can create a diversion whilst they continue setting up the new system in the background. So that was the first scenario. And I asked them again, will Trump be on the ballot for 2024? And this time they said in scenario B, at this moment in time, it's not necessary. So I wanted to know what scenario B meant. I said the 2024 elections, can you tell me the proposed plan, outcome, or strategy at this current time? I said, is it intended that Donald Trump will be on the ballot in 2024. And now they said, not at this time. And I said, what is the reasoning for that? And they said that President Donald Trump, is going to oversee the next and new setup for the Freedom City movement. So I said, so how will 2024 look? Will Ron DeSantis be brought back in? And they said, not yet. They said all the main players will be seen to be moving in and then back out as they are setting up the stage for the new setup of 26 and 27. So I said, so Ron DeSantis is working with Trump? And they said, very much so, they are best friends. I said, Robert Kennedy, will he get to the 24 election? And they said, no, he'll be one of the people that's pulled back. So I said, so who is being put into position for the true setup, the new setup? They said, the new setup will have advisors, and the people will be able to vote for their policies rather than for the people themselves. So I said, who are the people that are likely to be in the new lineup, this new arena? I said, would it be Trump? They said, yes. I said, Musk, yes. Ron DeSantis, yes. Tulsi Gabbard in the background, yes. Jack Dorsey in the background, yes. Oprah Winfrey, yes, as an advisor. John F. Kennedy Jr., and they said, no, he will pull back because of bad health. Candace Owens, yes, she'll be involved. Julian Assange, yes. McAfee will be in the background, and Snowden will also be in the background of the new setup. So that was scenario B. So then I asked again, so will the 2024 election run? And they said, at this point, it is not intended that the 2024 election will run in November 2024. They said it may get delayed until 2025. And I said, what would be the cause of a delay? So this is scenario C. And they said that a series of world events will shift the emphasis away from the 24 elections. And I said, what sort of events might they be? And they said there might be many events that could happen close together. You could have a financial event, a weather event, and a political event. And all these things will destabilize the election of November 24. And so the election will be postponed or possibly abandoned. And I said, so if it's postponed or abandoned, who will be running the entity called the USA? So it will effectively have no true leadership and will covertly be managed under military law. And I said, will military personnel be deployed on the streets as a result of this? And they said, it is not anticipated that this is going to be necessary. And I said, so will the Truth Social Network movement and the app, is this going to be involved in sort of maintaining the structure and the peace at this time? And they said all of the above. So then I said, what else can you tell me at this time in terms of, for example, is Nancy Pelosi, is she working with Trump on the 2024 situation and beyond? And they said in the past, Nancy Pelosi has been instrumental in helping President Trump and the new setup, the new military setup, with their strategy. And I said, in the future, what role is somebody like, say, Oprah Winfrey going to hold And they said going forward, Oprah Winfrey and other Hollywood actors, singers, and entertainers, they'll all step forward to be voices for the Truth Social movement. They said Oprah Winfrey will act as an ambassador for peace. I said, at any point in the future, is Trump going to be placed under some sort of, like a house arrest? And they said, yes, but they said this is really for his own safety during these times of transition. And I said, so what are these transition times? And they said that the expected tumultuous times ahead, as the old political voting system is dismantled and this new system is put into place and rolled out, they said that might be why he has to be in sort of a safe position, maybe under house arrest. And I said, when you say rolled out, does that mean it's going to be, like advertised? And they said, not exactly. It's going to be implemented in like a piecemeal fashion. So I said, all the people that Trump is endorsing, will they be considered as part of the new setup going forward? And they said, Trump is trying to create a strong team of white hats who the public can work with as the new setup starts to be unfolded. And they said, I said, how will these players that Trump endorses, how would they help with the rollout of the new setup? And they said that they're going to provide a stable message for people as these people move into voting for policy and not people, for unity and not division. They're going to be working towards one party called We the People movement, where we're going to be voting in a decentralized system. And I've talked about this many times before. Then I had a few questions on continuity of government, and I wanted to ask, has continuity of government been enacted in the USA since 2020? And they said, not exactly. They said the whole process was actually dissolved. And in real terms, the military have been running operations worldwide since 2016. And I said, has the green light been enacted? We heard about the green light some time ago. They said that the go, go, go command is still to be delivered, but the green light worldwide was in 2016 when Trump became the president. And in effect, the government was dissolved worldwide in its current form. And so then I said, so what will provoke the go, go, go command? And they said, once the infrastructure is set up within Space Force, then this command will be given. And I said, what will the command be actioning? And they said it will be the sign to switch on the decentralized computer systems worldwide to the masses. I said, and they said that these systems are currently only being tested on beta worldwide. So then I wanted to know, was the UK government dissolved as part of a corporation? And they said yes. And I said, what was the purpose and what does it mean for the structure of the UK now? And they said that the UK corporation was dissolved and replaced by a new leadership setup called continuity of government, the same as the USA. And they said that most countries and regions are now signing into the new worldwide military peace plan, and that they are dissolving their old governmental structures legally, and they're doing this in order to sign into the Space Force. Space Force is the military overseer of the new setup going forward, and most leaders and politicians that are seen at this time are really only playing a role under the military white hat instructions to hold everything steady until we begin to release the new setup. And this new setup, they said, is going to happen in or around 2026 to 2027. And they said, this is to keep the masses calm, the way that they're running things at the moment, and to keep the masses under the illusion that they are still being governed so that we can maintain peace and order amongst the civilians. And I said, the green light, has that already been enacted in the UK? And they said that Boris Johnson resigning was the green light in the UK. And I said, so what did the green light stand for in the UK? They said the green light was the confirmation that the UK was now moving away from the corporation into continuity of government whilst being overseen by the military under military law. So I said, the Department of Defence in the UK, are they overseeing this military law and continuity of government? And they actually said, no, they're not. And I said, who is overseeing it? And they said, it's the Space Force agreements and treaties are the framework for the continuity of government in the UK. They said all countries are signing in and will be operating in a similar way. So they said that in effect, no leaders are truly in control of their countries if they have now agreed to sign in to the worldwide military peace plan. They said the true leading policies going forward will be decided by the citizens of each country, each region, and it will be through decentralized voting. So countries are effectively holding things steady by appearing to be running business as usual. So then I asked them, who is leading the operations in the countries who have signed in? Is it their military chiefs of the Space Force divisions? And they said that in some cases, it is a Space Force command operation, but also it is through delegated operations to chief military personnel in each location or region where they have already agreed to sign in. So I asked them, so do the people in government know about this, and are they signed to sort of non-disclosure agreements? They said that most of the government officials, like the civil service, the military, etc., they are actually unaware of this continuity of government and the protocols that are in place in each region. And they said only a few top officials in the military and the government and security personnel know the aspects of what is occurring around the world with regard to the worldwide military peace plan. And they said a handful will be reporting directly to the top team, which is the Q team. And I said, what is the difference between military law and continuity of government? They said one is concerned with operations of peace on the ground, i.e. military law, and the other is concerned with the day-to-day running of the infrastructure and the operations which they need in order to maintain stability within a country or region. So, for example, the government departments and financial systems and things like that. So then I asked, are the USA military, are they waiting on a go, go, go call from Donald Trump? And they said, at this moment in time, a go, go, go call sign or event is not anticipated. They said a go, go, go command would be relevant if a country were in a state of war. And they said at this moment in time, a military go, go, go command is not anticipated. They said that all strategy is on creating peace and maintaining business as usual, where possible, from the white hat side. And I said, what about the black hat side? They said the black hats are burying themselves deeper and hiding where possible whilst they're trying to regroup. And I said, it sounds like they've been hit hard and disbanded. And they said, to the greater extent, the top players have been halted. But they did say that the foundations and the tentacles of the black hats goes far and wide. And it's an ongoing operation to identify emerging groups and bad players. They said eventually the new quantum cyber systems will lock them out of any power moves. So next I wanted to look at China, which is something that I haven't really sort of ventured into before. I wanted to ask, is China one of the locations which is signing into the worldwide military peace plan? And they said, yes, it is. And I said, so what stage is China at with regard to signing in? And is it a white hat operation? And they said China are ahead of other nations with regard to setting up the infrastructure within their region. The diplomatic matters of how they merge into the worldwide military peace plan, though, are ongoing. I said, is China a threat to the USA with their technological infrastructure? I said, at this moment in time, it is a precarious balancing act trying to incorporate some regions into the worldwide military peace plan. They said that China is one of the precarious regions along with Taiwan and Indonesia. And I said, so how is this being addressed? I said, the white hats are continuing to gain momentum within these regions with careful surveillance and assistance from organizations outside their geographical regions. And I said, so are we saying that in order for the white hats to maintain a foothold in these regions, they are receiving white hat assistance through surveillance from other regions of the world? And they said, yes, that is exactly the position. So I said, how far along are China and these regions in adopting white hat control and infrastructure so that they can join the worldwide military peace plan? He said that China is about 60% along, Taiwan is about 40% along, and Indonesia is about 30% along. So I said, so is this holding up the rest of the world? He said, in some cases, it is holding up diplomatic negotiations for the peace treaties, but it is moving forward at a faster pace daily. I said, so at this stage of moving forward, are China a threat to the world with their technological infrastructure and their space operations? And they said, not exactly, because the white hat factions want to join the worldwide peace plan. They said the white hats are purposefully cleaning house in China of the deep state factions. And I said, so how far along are they? And they said 65 to 70% in most cases. Some regions require more focus than others. They said outside surveillance is assisting them. I said, is America assisting them with this surveillance? They said, no. And I said, is Russia? And they said, yes. That was interesting. So talking of surveillance, I then wanted to look at the NSA, the National Security Agency. Now, the NSA, which is the National Security Agency, is a national level intelligence agency of the United States Department of Defense. And I wanted to know to what extent they are working with the White Hat Plan. And they said to me that the NSA, the National Security Agency of the United States of America, is about 80% White Hat controlled at this time, and that a big cleanup operation is ongoing. I said, do the NSA work with the worldwide military peace plan? And they said in some departments of the NSA, there is a dedicated team who work with each section of Space Force. And they said that the Space Force teams of the NSA are currently 99% white hats. And they said that the other 1% are known and will be systematically removed as and when required. They said that the NSA do play both sides. Essentially, they are acting as spies, and they can be useful for vetting people, and they can be useful for security details. But essentially, they are still, trying to work out this cleanup in the main parts of the NSA, as they only have it 80% controlled at the moment by the white hats. So I wanted to ask about the frequency in the USA, and is it deliberately being held low for some reason? They said to me, it's not being held low, the frequency. In fact, it's the opposite. They said it's going through many challenges at the moment. That's true. But it's to force the civilians or the citizens to go within and to assess why they are feeling uncomfortable. And so it's designed to get the people to question the government. So it's a reverse psychology operation. And the more events that create stress or uncertainty or even fear, then the more the people will go within to search for answers. And it's the going within and the questioning which is going to create awakening and awareness. So it's not that they're deliberately holding the frequency low as such. It's more that they are instigating a set of events and narratives so that people have the opportunity to go inside and decide for themselves what they think about that, which then creates an awakening. So then I wanted to look at the other platforms, like the other social media platforms like Facebook, for example. And I said, is there any plan for Elon Musk to incorporate any other platforms under the X.com framework? And they said to me that at this moment in time, YouTube may be taken over and managed by Musk going forward, and that Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, they're all going to be restructured and rebranded, and they're all going to be realigned or aligned, I should say, with the Truth Social movement. They said there's a strong team working inside YouTube currently who are cleaning up the strategies and streamlining the operations and the personnel. And I said, will Facebook be split away from Meta? And they said it is likely in the longer term that Meta will go under the X.com structure. So about 1 or 2 weeks ago, I had a vision of Mohammed bin Salman, and it looked like a military team sitting with him. And I could see them in the Arctic region having some sort of discreet meeting. And so I wanted to find out what that was all about. It was something different to the BRICS meeting that went on in a different part of the world. I think that happened in Africa. And I could definitely see this meeting with Mohammed bin Salman happening in the Arctic region. So I said to them, I saw a classified group of leaders in the Arctic region. What is this group? Is it a council? And was Mohammed bin Salman, was he present? And they said, yes, he was. And it was a BRICS stroke military meeting about the quantum financial system. I said, was this a secret meeting? They said, very much so. And I said, what were they discussing? And who else was present? They said that Mohammed bin Salman was heading up a financial strategy meeting quite separate to the meetings we see around BRICS. And they are classified meetings regarding the new financial structure. And I said, is this new financial structure, is it the same or is it part of BRICS? And they said, not exactly. They said the meeting was more about the distribution of the digital assets after they have been assessed in the quantum virtual vault. So I'll put in the link below. I'll put below the link for the quantum virtual vault, which I've been discussing over on my channel at locals.com. And I said, so what stage are they at with this project? They said it's highly classified, this project is, and it will not be disclosed to the public until the new setup has been organized in the USA, which they've told me before is called the Queen Move, and that the new setup in Saudi Arabia will be known as the King Move. So they're saying that this highly classified project to do with the digital assets and how they're assessed in the quantum virtual vault and how maybe they're distributed, it won't go ahead until we see the Queen Move from the USA and the King Move from Saudi Arabia. And they said this is part of the strategy assigned to go forward once the military worldwide peace plan is fully implemented with Space Force and the necessary peace treaties are signed and fully ratified. So they're saying that we won't see the Queen Move from the USA and the King Move from Saudi Arabia until everybody is completely signed in to this military worldwide peace plan, and that everything is, the peace treaties and the protocols are signed. So then I asked, who was in attendance? Was it the white hat military? They said yes. I said, was it Q team? And they said only Mohammed bin Salman. I said, was there anybody else there, say for the, the financial setup? They said, again, Mohammed bin Salman is taking a lead role. He is the military advisor for this geographical region. And I said, is this group related or assigned to the Delta arms of Space Force? And they said, no, not exactly. This is a financial group which was discussing future distribution of wealth on the quantum system. It is not directly linked to Space Force. They said that Space Force is only responsible for overseeing cybersecurity, and it is not responsible for the financial policy or distribution of wealth in real terms under the new setup. So I said, what is the military government tunnel that I sometimes see, which is running up the west side of America, and it goes from, in my visions, it goes from Austin in Texas through Colorado and up to Idaho. And they said to me that this is like a safety network where they transport and secure highly classified documents, people of interest, and it's a route where they can keep people and technology safe if they're wanting to transport it from, say, one location to the other. And I said, are there any other sort of organizations that work alongside Space Force that are considered like a white hat operation? They said at this moment in time, only the Q operation is considered a white hat operation or counsel to the Space Force. They said all other agencies like NATO or the UN are being restructured and cleaned out of all the dark hat operatives, and this is an ongoing program. So I hope you've really enjoyed all that information today. and I look forward to seeing you next time.